Welcome to the June 15th special meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District. Melanie, can you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Ryring,
Here.
Commissioner Matoush. You're muted,
Here.
Tom.
There, now I think I'm off mute.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Present.
Hello.
Commissioner Brennan. Oh. Commissioner Brennan, we can't hear you.
Hello. Oh, there.
yes.
I've got audio.
Okay, now I can hear you.
I couldn't hear before.
Commissioner Lorenas.
Here.
Is that everybody, Monica? Monica? I'm sorry, Monica. Melanie. We got everybody's here. Okay. All right. We're going to start with public comment today because the purpose of this meeting is closed session. But if we have anyone here that would like to make a public comment, I'll be allowing 2 minutes for public comments. Sabrina Brennan.
Hi, I have a question. So this is not my public comment. I would like to ask how much time commissioners are going to be allowed to speak. So this is just getting clear on the process here. So how much time are commissioners going to be allowed to speak on agenda items?
On today's agenda item, when we go into closed session?
No, the item is heard in open session before it's closed session.
Tricia, do you have an answer for this?
Okay, so typically you have open session where the public can comment on a closed session item before you go in. And I guess where one of the commissioners is conflicted out, I don't know that, I guess they won't be part of the closed session, so they won't have an opportunity to comment during the closed session. But I also don't see, it does not seem that they would have the that they would participate. Well, I suppose they could make comment, that commissioner could make a comment as a member of the public before we go into closed session.
Tricia, I have a question.
Sure.
So in the past, all commissioners have been allowed to make comments on closed session items during open session. Is that something we're changing? Because that's not what our past practices have been. I believe that everyone, including commissioners, the public and commissioners, are supposed to be able to comment on anything on the agenda.
So I don't think that there's any, I just don't see the question come up because everybody in closed session, the commissioners are typically in the closed session. So if commissioners wanted to speak before the closed session item, I guess that seems appropriate, and then we would look to the chair to set parameters for the amount of time each would speak.
Can you clarify what the amount of time, that was my initial question. What is the amount of time each commissioner will have and each member of the public, I don't know if we have any, will have to make a comment on the agenda item?
I think the chair can make that call, can set a reasonable limit on the amount of time.
Can we find out what that is?
Public comments, and if you're making a comment now, I think you'd be making it as a member of the public, so that's 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, I don't think, Commissioner Raring, I don't think you understand what I'm asking. What our lawyer, Trish, can you come back? Because I feel like I should be talking to you.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry, I can't see you. There you go. So what I just heard you say is that commissioners can comment not as a member of the public, but as a commissioner in advance of any agenda item. Can you please clarify that so that the board president understands that a commissioner is allowed to make a comment on an agenda item, any agenda item, regardless of whether it's going to eventually end up in closed session? Can you please clarify that to her so that when I make a comment, it's not as a member of the public, but it's as a commissioner?
I guess I don't what I said before was that commissioners are able to comment on the agenda item. Typically it's during closed session. I don't know that it's necessary just to distinguish between whether you're making a comment as a member of the public or as a commissioner. I think it's appropriate if you want to talk before we go into closed session to do that, and subject to all the time constraints on any speakers prior to the closed session.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because in the past, we've had members of the public who serve on other boards criticize our board for commissioners making comments as members of the public, which is misleading to the public, instead of making those comments during commissioner comments. So I think that this is different than what we've done in the past. And so I want to make sure that it's clear that what I'm suggesting is that commissioners make comments as commissioners, not as members of the public. I support that because that's what we've always done in the past, and that's typically how it's handled. But if you're diverging from that and insisting that I make a comment as a member of the public, I just want to be really clear about what it is we're doing here, and I'm not right now.
Well, I think you're able to talk regardless. I think the issue here is that you're speaking on interest likely in your private interest rather than as a member of the board. So it seems like your comment is more in the nature of a comment of a member of the public rather than as a commissioner. But either way, I think you're able to comment before we go into closed session.
So Trish, I'd just like to remind you that I'm an employee of the Harbor District. So how can I, as an employee of the Harbor District, make a comment that is just as a member of the public without acknowledging that I'm an employee of the Harbor District? That doesn't sound transparent. So are you sure about this? Because I think as a member of the Harbor Commission and a paid employee for the district, it's important that I make the comment as an employee of the district, as a commissioner.
I think everybody knows your role with the commission. I think you can make your comment, and we understand who you are and the role and the position you hold, and you're able to speak.
As a commissioner.
Sure. I don't know. I guess I'm not seeing the distinction. You're speaking on your own personal interest. You are a commissioner. I don't see any limits on your ability to speak.
Well, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm speaking on my own personal interest? What does that mean? Are you saying that every commissioner is speaking on their own personal interest?
I think here where the discussion is regarding a complaint made against the board, your interest diverges from the board's interest, and so you're speaking on your personal on behalf of your personal interests rather than in the capacity as a commissioner.
You mean I'm speaking as an employee? And just to be clear, my complaint is against 3 employees with the district. My complaint is against Commissioner Mateusz, Commissioner Chang-Karali, and Commissioner Raring. That is who my complaint is against. My complaint is not against any staff management level people, Harbor Patrol. My complaint is strictly against 3 employees that work for the Harbor District, and that's Commissioner Mateusz, Commissioner Raring, and Commissioner Chang-Karali. Those are 3 employees with the district that I have have a retaliation complaint against. I just want to be clear who the complaint is against. It's not against the district as a whole. It's against 3 employees that work for the district. Okay. So this is a question back for the board president. Are you going to allow me to speak during the agenda item as a commissioner to make comment, or do I need to do it during general public comment? Or I just want to make sure I don't get cut off, because a lot of people got cut off at our last meeting, including myself, including another commissioner, including members of the public. And I just want to make sure that I get a chance to speak without getting cut off.
Commissioner Brennan, why don't you go ahead and start your 5 minutes right now?
So you're giving me 5 minutes on the agenda item. Can you please read the item so that everybody knows what I'm commenting on? Or should I read it? I mean, run the meeting and call out what the item is? So
The agenda item is a closed session conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. One case, claims brought by Sabrina Brennan. You may commence.
okay. So we're on the agenda item, correct?
We are.
Okay. So in 2019, I made a retaliation complaint against Commissioner Tom Matoush, Nancy Raring, and Virginia Chang Corrali. An investigation into my complaint is being conducted by the Shaw Law Group. Last week, it's my understanding that the Shaw Law Group reached out to Commissioner Tom Matoush, Nancy Raring, and Virginia Chang Corrali to schedule interviews regarding the complaint, and it was a retaliation complaint, to be clear. This closed session item is an attempt to shut down the retaliation investigation in advance of interviews with commissioners. My complaint is not against management staff or anyone on the Harbor Patrol. It's my understanding that Commissioner Nancy Raring called this closed session special meeting. I am recusing myself from closed session. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brennan. Commissioner Lorenz, you have your hand up?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead. You have the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. So several board members seem to have a conflict of interest going into this closed session since it's against members of the board. I've not seen the complaint, so I can only guess. And if the commissioners do not recuse themselves, I will join in on this meeting, but under protest.
Thank you. We have a caller whose number ends in 3602 with their hand raised.
Hello, this is John Ullum. Speaking to Ed's point, it does seem odd that you would characterize Ms. Brennan's participation in this meeting as being in her self-interest, when clearly Mr. Matoush and Ms. Raring and Ms. Corrali have a strong personal interest in the outcome of this investigation. Ms. Corrali is on record as stating that one of the reasons Ms. Brennan was removed from her presidency was in retaliation for her lawsuit against Tom Matoush. And as you all know, the three of you all have high-fived Tom Matoush on Facebook for making the deciding vote to retaliate against Sabrina Brennan. And so it's really unclear how you could even participate in this meeting when you're the cause of the meeting. This is all about your retaliatory actions. At any rate, I'd like to speak to the way your meetings have been run recently. Ms. Raring, you sort of have treated this as though it's like Lafayette Park in a battle space that needs to be dominated. You've restricted people from commenting at public comment. You changed the order, you changed the meetings, or changed the rules of the meetings specifically to avoid criticism from the public. The previous 10 meetings that you have held in special meetings had open public comment in them. That the June 4th meeting, you chose not to allow that. And the only reason you could do that was because you did not want to hear the criticism and you wanted to narrow down the range of speech that could be expressed at that particular meeting. So you tried to force everybody to make their comments on this specific agenda item, which of course then you were acting like battle space to be dominated, and we're cutting people off, interrupting people from saying what they wanted to say. So I'm hoping that you'll take that into consideration and realize that people have fought for the right to participate in their government. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but June 4th was the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. Now, you're not a tank, and you're not going to run over people, but you have been trying to control the actual narrative that people are allowed to express at your meetings, and you need to stop doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ullum. I don't see any other hands raised, so we're going to adjourn and go into closed session right now. Lizzie, I think you're actually going to have to manage that for us here on Zoom.
I'll
Thank
be
you.
I'll be
President
assigning.
President Reiring, can you please list who's going to be in closed session for?
Closed session will be myself, Vice President Chang Crowley, and Commissioner Matoush and Commissioner Lorenz, along with Trisha Ortiz and Rebecca Green.
Okay, please give me one moment and I'll create the breakout room.
Thanks, Lizzie. I think we're just missing Commissioner Chang Crowley. Does anybody see her?
President Reiring, I've closed the breakout room and she should be rejoining us shortly.
Great, thank you. There she is. All right, we are reconvening after closed session and we have no reportable action. And so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm trying to call
Oh.
Commissioner Brennan, who's asked that she be given a minute to rejoin the meeting.
Okay. We're not doing any more public comment at this time, though.
Commissioner Brennan's joining by audio. She should be here in a second. Commissioner Brennan,
All
can
right,
you hear us?
we have returned from closed session. We have no reportable action to report out. And so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Chang Crowley,
I'll move to adjourn at
I'll
2:10.
second that. Roll call, Melanie?
Commissioner Reiring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan, I think you're muted, Commissioner Brennan.
She recused herself.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Chan Corrali.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.